Hey guys, and welcome back to AP Euro, the class that we start with Unit 0 instead of Unit 1. Today we're going to go ahead and start on Chapter 10 because honestly, I felt like it would be much longer, but it's actually probably the shortest chapter we had to read. And honestly, I feel like there's not much you have to remember in it, just some like minor key like details and stuff, and honestly, you should be good to go. Anyways, y'all know the drill. Whenever I scream at you highlight, you better highlight that, and you also better be taking notes during this, because when you have to write about chapter 10 during your time to write and you have nothing on your paper, I'm gonna look at you across the room. I'm just gonna be like, what did you not write? What did you miss the concept of? So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're in chapter 10, of course, and we are in the late Middle Ages. Highlights late Middle Ages. I look chopped. Oh. And this was a time of like a hot mess and major crisis in Europe. So it was a hot mess. So around 1300, highlight 1300, dates are so important in these like chapters. Population had grown so much that farmland could not keep up, and this led to famine. Highlight famine. If you don't know what famine is, it's like when you don't have enough food to feed everybody. Also, that was definitely like your memory warn at some point in life.
This was never my dream, Mike!
So then in the mid 1300s, the Black Death hit. Highlight the Black Death. It is not the plague, it is the Black Death. So the Black Death hit, and doctors had no idea what to do other than to dress up like a crow. So do y'all ever get like those TikToks on like your For You page? It's like POV woke up as like the plague doctor from the Black Death. Oh. So this plague spread from Europe to Asia through trade routes, and it was carried by fleas on rats. It killed about 1/3 of Europe's population. That's important. You should highlight that it killed 1/3 of Europe's population. So because cities had the most people, cities were hit the hardest with this plague, and some people started to turn to religion, and they started blaming the Jews specifically because at the time it was like so trendy to be Catholic and Christian, and they all looked at the Jews and were like, so y'all are the ones who started this.
No, I'm literally Amish. I would never.
Oh shoot, so you're not Jewish?
No, I literally just said I was Amish.
And that's not okay because you're not Christian, y'all are the ones who started this. But some people believe that God was punishing them. But either way, the population went poof. Like it's a ghost town now.
Shoot, where did everybody go?
You have the plague.
What?
So then came the peasants who were like, hey, you know, everybody's dying and there's not enough workers to like work, so we deserve better wages. And the kings and nobles were like, no, sit down, you're getting your wage. So the peasants revolted, which is basically like the medieval version of strike, which if you don't know what strike is, it's where like employees refuse to work. But this one was just like on steroids with pitchforks. Highlight Jews, by the way. So actually across the battlefield, France and England were actually in the 100-Year War, which was from 1337 to 1453. And this war started over disputes over land and over who ruled France. Because France was like, hey, that's our crown. And England was like, no, it's not. Our king wants it. And at first, England crushed it because of the longbowmen. Highlight 100-Year War. Highlight longbowmen. But then came Joan of Arc. Highlight Joan of Arc. Highlight her. Literally, if you have Madame Hates for French, you will see her in her classroom. So Joan of Arc was like a peasant teenage girl who was like, hey, God sent me and I'm here to save France. So she actually lifted French spirits, and eventually national identity. Highlight national identity. It probably has nothing to do with this lesson, but just highlight it. National identity grew, so the French felt French and the English felt English. And that was like the new idea in Europe. But wait, if you like the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills or The Secret Life of Mormon Wives, this is basically the medieval times, because the church, highlight our good friend the church, had its own reality show called I don't know how to say it, The Great Schism. So highlight The Great Schism. So there was one pope in Rome, highlight Rome, another in Avignon, which is France, highlight Avignon, and the third was in Pisa, and all three of them were yelling, I'm the real pope. So this papal schism, highlight papal schism, I have no idea what that means. It wrecked the church's credibility, leaving people like, well, who's our real spiritual leader? So eventually, the Council of Constance, highlight the Council of Constance, 1414 through 1417, ended the mass and chose Martin V. Highlight Martin V. Highlight him. And in the middle of all this chaos, there was still war and violence. So like to try to make things less chaotic, the church got involved again, and they sometimes pushed the peace of God. Highlight Peace of God and the Truce of God movement. Highlight Truce of God movement, where knights were told, okay, you can fight, but only on certain days. So they like whipped out their calendar and they were like, oh yes, next Tuesday it looks perfect. And they planned, but they were told not to fight against peasants or clergy. And spoiler alert, knights didn't always listen. So by the end of this chapter, Europe was scarred by the plague, the war, revolts, and church drama. Highlight plague. I forgot the rest. War, revolts, and church drama. But the good thing that came out this mess was national monarchies. Highlight national monarchies. So you don't even know. And these were the cracks in the church that would later open the door to Reformation. Highlight Reformation, because that's important and that's basically Unit 1. But anyways, like I said, chapter 10 is probably the shortest chapter we had to read, and honestly, the shortest chapter I've ever had to explain. Like, I think this video is like 10 minutes long. It might even be like 3 minutes long, but this is the shortest chapter I've ever done. But thank you so much. I'm going to be making a longer, much longer video for chapter 11 since we have a test over it. But like, come back in 2 days once I have my A-Day third period with Dr. Moore, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Shut up, Melissa. Does everything have to be about your child?